What's happening everyone? Pragmatic Addict here. So in this review, we're going to be talking about Smile 2. Now following Skye, a brand new character, a famous pop star who now has the curse. Which that right there, this really intriguing setting, also with the announcement that Kyle Gallner was going to be, in fact, reprising his role as Joel from the first movie. I was definitely curious to see how this film would connect to the first film, as well as further expand the lore of this curse. Which it certainly sounded like director Parker Finn had some interesting plans for. So let's get right into Smile 2. So I gotta say, how this film does connect to that first film, I just found that to be ambitious and action-packed as hell. And like the sequel's just overall setting, I just found it to be a really different and interesting update for this story, this universe. But I am gonna say, this character Skye, I'll say unsure about how I felt about her when she had her character introduction. Everything from how that scene played out to how the characters during the scene were reacting to what was actually going on. It just wasn't the best opener to a new protagonist for a sequel in my opinion. But I will say though, Naomi Scott, just her performance that she delivered in this film regardless of the character, blew me the fuck away. Especially from a character study standpoint, scenes with this character's background, any scenes that would be in the category of like traumatic or alarming, she absolutely knocked it the fuck out of the park. Which I want to note now, once I got familiar with the film's like what seemed to be its bigger theme, I admired the layers of the characters, the underlying roots of them, who they were as specific people being introduced into the Smile chain. Which is kind of what the first one did, where its main theme was obviously mental illness, and how it starts with being dismissed as just that being mental illness, and of all people, the curse that gets passed on from them is to none other than a therapist, and how people start viewing her as shit goes off the rails with her having the curse. The bigger theme that this film seemed to revolve around, I just found it to be bolder, and it really made for just a very interesting next direction for this franchise. And also just had me on the edge of my seat with the things that they could do with it after seeing even just the first 20 minutes of this thing and really grasping what this theme was and all that they were already putting into it. Though I do want to say, I did find the pacing and tone to just kind of be all over the place at times and just not on one specific path or level as much as the first films. There are some scenes where it's definitely aiming at like goofiness and just silliness and awkwardness that just felt kind of out of place for the otherwise pretty dark tone of the film, and it just kind of felt like it was there to water down how genuinely gnarly this movie could be, which is really interesting because before all that's introduced, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is definitely just a bolder, darker, more intense take on the Smile universe. It just felt like they were raising those stakes more. Which on one hand, I can understand this, like, you know, with this being a long runtime, a debatably darker theme, but again, also on the other hand, the first film had no comedy. It was also just a dark theme, a long runtime, and it was received very well. And not only that, but people came for a sequel to that. I just think that the comedy aspect in this film wasn't completely needed and may turn some people off. And going even further into that comedic aspect, that along with the film like as a horror movie, as well as like the storyline of like delving more into the curse and the story of this new character, her being a world famous musical artist who's on tour, as well as just the overall subject nature again behind the character, I just found it to be a bit convoluted and just, again, not really on one path as much as the first film was. But I do gotta say, an aspect I did have a lot of uncomfortable fun with were when our main character is put in really intense and just uncomfortable situations that were involved with being in public and having to do with something relatively important. Kind of like the first one with the birthday scene, for example. This film does offer more of that, and I would actually go as far as to say that I'm not entirely sure which film did it better. But now something I really want to say is something that just never let up, it never paused, it never let you catch your breath, and it just continued to progress worse and worse and worse. And I fucking loved it. Was a big segment in this film's last act. It is so action-packed, involved, and layered, adrenaline-inducing, and was just one of the biggest edge-of-my-seat moments that I've had in a really long time. It went on for actually quite a while too, though I will say the actual climax of the movie itself, it is an ending that I think is definitely an interesting choice as far as raising stakes, but goddamn, I'm just saying, if Parker Finn chooses to go forward with a third film, he's got his work cut out for him, man. Good luck on that third film. And overall, guys, I thought Smile 2 was fine. Yes, guys, with all that being said, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one very soon. Take care.